Hello and welcome to Outside Views, the channel where we dive deep into the pressing issues shaping our world and challenge the decisions that define nations. Today we're asking a crucial and timely question. Is the British economy in trouble due to Brexit? And the answer is both complex and significant, with implications not just for the UK but for its neighbours, trading partners and global economic stability. Brexit, once hailed by its proponents as the key to Britain's liberation from EU bureaucracy, has instead become a source of economic stagnation and persistent challenges. And as we approach 2025, these challenges show no signs of abating. To understand the current state of the British economy, we must begin with the promises of Brexit and how they compare to the realities facing the UK today. When the Brexit referendum was held in 2016, the Leave campaign promised that exiting the EU would restore British sovereignty, reduce immigration, and unleash the country's economic potential. Supporters argued that the UK would be free to negotiate its own trade deals, craft its own regulations, and decide its own future without interference from Brussels. The vision was one of a global Britain, reasserting itself as a major player on the world stage. But nearly 8 years later, the economic benefits of Brexit remain elusive. Instead, the UK finds itself grappling with a series of interconnected crises, many of which stem from its decision to leave the EU. So let's start with trade, the lifeblood of any modern economy. Before Brexit, the UK enjoyed frictionless trade with the EU, its largest trading partner, thanks to its membership in the single market and the customs union. There's the customs union and there's a customs union. I explained that on my EU channel. Goods and services flowed freely across borders with minimal bureaucracy and no tariffs, and today the relationship has been fundamentally altered. The Trade and Cooperation Agreement, or TCA, signed in 2020, established a framework for trade but left significant gaps. Customs checks, regulatory divergence, and rules of origin requirements have created new barriers, particularly for small and medium-sized enterprises. These businesses, which often lack the resources to navigate complex trade rules, have seen their export volumes decline dramatically. Many have been forced to stop exporting altogether, cutting off vital revenue streams and limiting growth opportunities. The agricultural and manufacturing sectors have been hit especially hard. Farmers who once relied on seamless trade routes to export their products now face delays and increased costs due to customs inspections and sanitary checks. Perishable goods like fresh produce and seafood are particularly vulnerable, with spoilage rates increasing and profits dwindling. Manufacturers, meanwhile, have struggled to source components and raw materials from Europe, disrupting supply chains and driving up costs. These challenges have contributed to a broader economic slowdown, with the UK's GDP growth lagging behind that of other advanced economies. Recent studies highlight the scale of the economic damage. The London School of Economics estimates that Brexit has reduced the UK's trade with the EU by approximately £27 billion over the past 2 years. The Office for Budget Responsibility projects that Brexit will lower the UK's GDP by 4% over the long term, equivalent to tens of billions of pounds in lost output each year. And this economic drag is not just a matter of abstract numbers. It translates into fewer jobs, lower wages, and reduced investment in public services. Speaking of public services, Brexit has also strained the government's ability to fund critical programs. The promises of a Brexit dividend, extra money that could be spent on healthcare, education, and infrastructure, have largely failed to materialize. Instead, the government faces mounting fiscal pressures driven by reduced trade revenues and the costs of adapting to life outside the EU. To address these challenges, some economists have called for higher taxes on income and consumption to close the budget deficit. However, the government's reluctance to tackle these core taxes has led to a reliance on less popular measures, such as increased levies on businesses and specific industries. And this approach has drawn criticism for being both inequitable and short-sighted, further eroding public trust in the government's economic strategy. Politically, Brexit has left the UK more divided than ever. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has sought to reset relations with the EU, but his approach has been cautious. While he has promised to reduce trade barriers and improve cooperation on issues like security and climate change, Starmer has ruled out rejoining the single market or the customs union. And this reflects the delicate balance he must strike, with strong opinions on both sides of the Brexit debate. But critics argue that without a more ambitious plan, the UK risks remaining in a state of economic and political limbo. The geopolitical context adds another layer of complexity. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has reshaped Europe's priorities, with the EU focusing on expanding its membership and deepening integration. Countries like Ukraine, Moldova, and the Western Balkans are now on the path to EU membership, further strengthening the bloc's economic and political clout. As these countries move closer to Europe, the UK risks being sidelined, losing influence in a region that remains vital to its interests. And this isolation is particularly evident in trade negotiations, where the UK has struggled to secure meaningful agreements outside the EU. Public opinion on Brexit has also shifted significantly since the referendum. Polls consistently show that a majority of Britons now regret the decision to leave the EU. Younger generations, who overwhelmingly favor closer ties with Europe, view Brexit as a mistake that has limited their opportunities and diminished the UK's global standing. And this growing disillusionment creates both a challenge and an opportunity for policymakers. While rejoining the EU remains politically unlikely in the short term, there is increasing pressure to pursue closer ties and address the economic damage caused by Brexit. So, what can be done to mitigate these challenges? Economists and policymakers have proposed several measures, including simplifying customs procedures, reducing regulatory divergence, and rejoining key EU programs like Horizon Europe and Erasmus+. And these initiatives could help restore some of the economic benefits of EU membership without requiring full reintegration. However, implementing these changes will require political courage and a willingness to confront the hardliners within both major parties. In conclusion, the British economy is facing significant challenges, many of which can be traced back to Brexit. While there is no simple solution, acknowledging the problem is the first step toward recovery. The UK must decide whether it wants to continue down the path of isolation or embrace a more collaborative approach to its future. The choices made in the coming years will not only shape the economy but also Britain's identity and its place in the world. So thank you for watching Outside Views again, and if you have thoughts on Brexit's impact on the British economy or ideas for how the UK can move forward, share them in the comments below. And as always, if you found this discussion insightful, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. And let's continue to explore and question the decisions that shape our lives. Take care, and the next video is right here in the end screen.